exploring integration of architecture, game programming, and virtual reality and sustainable education. A few notes for the MGGBC upcoming events. First and foremost, we have an Emerging Professionals Happy Hour at Alpha Brewery, July 6th. Just a little bit up from Amsterdam Tavern, one of my favorite bars. Little side note. Secondly, our next evening program will be the Summer Member Social, July 11th. And that will be on the Wash U grounds in their sustainability building. And then our following third Friday coffee break will be July 21st. Topic to come. And then if any of you have an educational proposal, the next call will be due on Tuesday, August 8th, the morning of our next meeting. So any of you are dying to know something within green building or sustainability, certainly let us know and fill out that form. And then after that, our annual partnership with ASHRAE St. Louis is on August 15th at the Missouri Historical Society, Missouri History Museum. Topic to come for that, but we're always so proud to partner with ASHRAE. So look forward to a lot of great events coming up. And I know the links are in the chat box right now. Thank you, Maeve and Emily, for that. And secondly, we are now recruiting schools and mentors for the 2023-2024 Green Schools Quest. So be sure, if you know of a school or a mentor that should be involved in this upcoming year, nominate them and get them involved. It's such a phenomenal program to get our students involved early in green building and green life. So that's all the fun MGGBC things going on. And I think James, let me see. Yeah, I think he's on there. But our featured guest is James Hill. He is the CEO and founder of Alambda. James is a seasoned software developer, software architect, and entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience in the industry. As the founder and CEO of Alambda Systems, James is instrumental in driving the company's success in developing cutting-edge software solutions for various industries. And in addition to his work in the corporate sector, he's deeply committed to making a positive impact through his nonprofit organization, Smart Bridge Green STEM Alliance, which aims to bridge the gap between people and technology, particularly in the Midwest and the Central Gateway region, encompassing Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And by promoting STEM education and sustainable practices, this organization seeks to build bridges that surpass boundaries, bringing the benefits of smart technology and sustainability to communities and empowering individuals to thrive in the digital era. So with all of that, and there's a lot more in the bio, just read it online. But James, if you are there.
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Thank you, David, for such a great introduction. And I really appreciate everyone's time. And so I guess I can just jump right into it and kind of from there, you know, just kind of segue into the agenda, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so again, my name is James Hill. I'm the founder and CEO of Alambda Systems. I also run a nonprofit that I started called Smart Bridge. And today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about education and how it ties closely into technology and how we can learn from our development operations that we use in the workforce and how we can maybe move that into the K through 12 kind of education space and bring that development mindset into the classroom and how that can have a positive effect on our K through 12 students. So I'm not sure how many on here have a development background, but As a developer and architect, one of the main tools that we use to help us kind of break down our work is our project management approach. And if you notice in a lot of different industries right now, um, even outside of tech, like the pharmaceutical industries, for example, or medical industries, they're starting to adopt the software development um, business process as well as development process um, into their project management. So, for example, most businesses and even schools use a waterfall methodology or a combine methodology. And in development, primarily, we're moving into an agile methodology or an ITIL approach. And what I want to talk about is how we can bring the development operations approach into our classrooms um, and how that can improve the outcomes of the students. So the development operations approach kind of breaks down into a couple phases. Essentially, as a developer, you're going to use a certain set of tools to create uh, software, and that software has to go through a process of testing and deployment. Essentially, um, in the classroom, and I'll save some time at the end for some questions too. In the classroom, we focus on classwork and getting that classwork through a couple different phases from the actual exploring and building the document by the student to getting it to the teacher for the grading and then the back and forth feedback on the encouragement. So in the development process, it's very similar to that. It lends to that, where we have a state where we go into a development stage and then a quality assurance stage and then a production stage. So what I like to talk about is how we can bring development operations like Salesforce DevOps or Microsoft DevOps or code commit from AWS into the classroom, where the students are now using their software development tools like Visual Studio to create their Word documents, to create their spreadsheets, to create their homework, to do their mathematics. And then when they check in their work to their teacher, instead of just emailing it to her, they use the pipeline that's built into the development process. So then the teacher can set up pre-made tests, unit tests, different types of artificial intelligence grading tools that can grade the work as it comes in and kind of become an assistant or a co-pilot to the teacher. And it creates this integrated working environment that developers are used to, but we bring that into the classroom and teach the kids K through 12 how to kind of use these tools and get used to that process. So by the time they're in college or in the workforce, they're familiar with those types of project management processes. And I think that would have a great impact on the outcomes of students from the fact of being able to keep track of all their work through source control and versioning, through the fact that the teachers will be able to integrate certain types of tests and stage gates and quality checks into the work, um, and automate some of their processes that they normally run through. And then from a statistical perspective and a data analytics perspective, all the data is then there, right, in the pipeline, and then it can be used, nationally. Those can be national databases of information for testing and other types of comparisons can be made with that data, and having it in a pipeline allows us to get it into a data stream, into a data patrol pattern, and from there we can use that, to better our education nationwide. So I just think bringing development operations into the classroom process can have lasting benefits, and that's pretty much what I wanted to bring up and talk about today. So if you guys have any questions around that or ideas that you want to reflect, or just feel free to speak up.
Well, thank you so much, James. I certainly think that it is a really um, pertinent topic. It's one that uh, bears importance in educating our youth. And I think throughout all different classes and finding unique ways to stimulate them is really important in getting the data that would be showing how beneficial it would be, or if we need to change it up. So all those metrics are really important.
So we have any questions in the chat or anything?
Sure.
Yes, Katie. Oh, sorry, Katie, go right ahead.
Okay, sorry, Jana. Okay. So I guess one of the questions I have for you is how do you envision overcoming some of the training hurdles that it would take to implement such a complete shift in how teachers teach to use this type of programming?
I would say for one, some of our teachers do use this already, so the first thing I would bring up is, we have our software development teachers, right? And we have our instructors and professional instructors out there for certain types of courses and boot camps. So some of this is being taught already. So I would, first kind of learn from that pattern, right? And see the successes that they're getting. And then I would, from my perspective, I like, for example, I'll go to the Foresight, right? And I'll talk to the teachers there, give them some workshops on how to use some of these tools. I'll talk to Clyde Miller Career Academy and do the same kind of thing. Go over to East St. Louis and talk to those schools and talk to them about the same kind of process. So kind of having some workshops. And I think going around, one thing that I'm going to be doing this year is going around and doing these workshops with some of the teachers and curriculum to try to explain to them how they can use the tools. And then also we could probably maybe partner up with some of the tool makers like Microsoft or Salesforce, and they do have certain like free vouchers for educators and that kind of thing. So there's some incentives there as well that educators get through their through using those tools. And I think that they would be happy to kind of help train probably as well if we could probably get the coalition around it. But that's a very good question. Does that answer your question? Do you have anything else around that question?
Deb, I think I saw your hand up. Katie, thank you for that great question.
Yeah, I do. Here at the Mid-Missouri branch, we have an architecture school, and they're using high-end programs like Revit. I'm wondering if you've considered moving this beyond the K through 12 sort of limit, and whether we can get some kind of link or something to some of the information you're discussing.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, I'd love to share that with you. I'll put together a pamphlet or a worksheet, and I'll send it to David. And he can share it with the team. Awesome. Thank you, Deb.
Yes, thank you, Deb. Thank you so much, Deb. And I believe we have Jana. She had a question. Jana, feel free to unmute and ask away.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you earlier. I'm on my phone, so it's always weird, the chat, Anyway, so I have a question about, so I am an instructor at the university. Using the AI to grade, like how do you control privacy and like the companies who are like, if you're loading student information or student responses into it, how do you control, or can you control how those companies then take that or what they do with it?
Right. So the repository data, that we were talking about can be loaded into your own local on-premise repository. So it's no different than asking yourself, how do you control the information in your Microsoft email that Microsoft hosts for you?
So the AI is reading something that's like hosted locally. It's not.
So I'm kind of answering your question in two ways. So one, okay, the AI can run locally, okay, but there's some extra cost there. But then the other side of your question is that we're already normalized on this process because do you guys use Outlook for email at school?
Yeah, but being normalized the same as.
I guess my point is this: when you
right.
send that email, Jana, you're sending it through the internet, right? Through the routers, right? You don't know if they're deleting your information as it goes router to router, And when it gets to the email server, right, it's being stored on a server. That information is not on premise, it's somewhere else. So you're trusting the same, you already kind of like have that trust of these tools. The same companies that make the Outlook are the same companies that are making your DevOps tools and that sort of thing. You know, then there's also steps that you can take to encrypt the information when it is out there.
Mhm.
You know, just like we were dealing with PII or like public identifiable information or HIPAA information from like insurance, right?
Mhm.
There's certain regulations around that, and certain identifiable information is the real key that you want to be careful with, because it's one thing to have the content, but if you can maybe obscure the identity around who the actual individual is, then you're a little bit better shape, right?
Mhm.
One step is to first kind of strip it of identifiable information before it does leave your premise, and then the next step is to try to encrypt that as well. Um, and then just from there, make sure that if you could do it on premise and you need to, then you go that far. But you have to remember there's hospitals that share information to the cloud at this point. There's government, so we have patterns to deal with that sort of thing.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
From Great question. Very good question. Any more questions?
Well, James, this is Emily. When David first brought up you as a potential speaker, he shared some information about a smart park idea that you were working on, and I'm
That's
wondering
right.
if you might share a little bit about that, because I think folks might be interested in hearing about it.
Yeah, no problem. So part of the Smart Bridge Green STEM Alliance mission is to kind of work with Alambda and other companies and organizations to add green smart devices to North City, St. Louis. And we had the opportunity to work with a couple organizations and get some traction there. So we decided to go with a smart bench design, a solar powered smart bench, which is similar to like a smart station or a connection station that you might see. I think Forest Park might have a connection station. They might be, but we're going to be the first kind of area in Missouri to have the smart bench. So hopefully we can get the smart bench installed into Fairground Park. We have a design submitted to the North Newstead Association through their NOFA revitalization grant that they're applying for. We came in under their umbrella, and we designed one for Fairground Park and one for the community grocery store going into Fairgrounds, right around the community garden that's right outside the site. So we had a location approved for it there as well. And essentially it is yep, there it is. Thank you. This is kind of a futuristic view of how something could really look if we put enough resources into it. The design we ended up going with was a little bit pared down from that, but essentially, we're working with the community to try to create these sites that have technology integrated into them. So we figure smart benches would be a great utility. People love to have it on the walkways, benches where they can sit, and then being able to charge your phone, and possibly, depending on the site and the agreements, possibly having the internet attached to it as well, or some kind of local communication. We're thinking about maybe instead of like the public internet, we would have a walled garden, and the walled garden would basically have maybe 3 or 4 sites on it only that were for the neighborhood. So when you sit down, you would get maybe the news and the grocery store, for example, North Newstead Association, and then, whatever, maybe like a small like online radio station or something. And that's it. And it wouldn't be connected to the full internet, per se. It would all be like static, so to speak. So that was one idea that we were working on. We also talked to the Great River Greenway and presented a design with them. And we're looking to get on the agenda for the Greenway update. We did miss a window for professional vendor application for the design. So we are looking for vendors that are already on their list to subcontract through to try and get the design through that way. And that's pretty much it around the smart bench idea. Any questions around that?
Yes,
Oh, so-
Katie. I think it's like
Okay. Yeah, I do have a question. It's not necessarily about the bench. It's just about this topic in general. I think that the bench is cool. I think some of the software tools that you've mentioned are great as well, like very interesting gizmos and gadgets. But in my experience, educating for sustainability, sometimes it's that process of deep learning happens without any gadgets or gizmos at all. So my question for you, James, I think is, what are the skills you're trying to teach, and could those be taught without any gadgets or gizmos? For example, with data science, it may be that we're teaching organizational skills or how to keep clean records, clean data. It may be that we're teaching processes of hierarchies. So what are some of the skills you're trying to teach, and could that be done without any gadget or gizmo?
Yeah, so the skills with the smart bench is really it's not so much designed to teach skills, but more explore green STEM products and tools that can be added to your environment to kind of enhance the learning and the lifestyle and the quality of life of the individuals. That's what these benches are for. Now, there's a certain aspect to it where we reached out to Donald Danforth, Plant Science, where we were saying if we can do a smart gazebo where we could put a plant exhibit in there and power that as well with the solar power. Could we bring students in from middle schools, high schools, colleges to be able to utilize the space for field trips? Could they have the Wi-Fi they would need? Would they have the power they need to be able to do their brown bag lunches, come there, experience the solar power, experience the space to be able to learn and collaborate, right? So the green Smart Bridge, Green STEM, our role there as a nonprofit is to try to help create a green smart product that can help bridge the gap. So that means like in North City, adding smart benches or smart gazebos that allow us to bring students there and experience the outdoors, as well as plant science and experience the power of solar and how we can do this sustainably. That would be fulfilling the mission of Smart Bridge Green STEM Alliance. Now on a Lambda side, dealing with empowering the K through 12 and like it was brought up, going into maybe the architectural schools and exploring how architecture can benefit from the DevOps process.
That's what I was referencing.
Right, that's what you were referencing. So you're saying how can we bring in the DevOps process without all the gizmos and gadgets? Got it. Okay. So yeah, exactly. So that's a wonderful question. So we can do this with whiteboarding, right? It can be done with a whiteboard. It actually started off initially in like the marketing environment where they would have their whiteboards with their ideas and you would go through phases similar to like a waterfall board, right? If you're familiar with a waterfall board with these stickers and the sticky notes, the yellow, the blue, the green, the red, the pink sticky notes, and each sticky note has a different meaning, and each color has a different meaning. And as you go phase to phase, use different color sticky notes, and that kind of evolved into the agile method where you had phases, basically backlogs. So the understanding and the mindset behind DevOps can be taught and learned without gizmos and gadgets, right? Unless you count books, you know, as gizmos, or documents, or individuals, you know, speakers. But you know, you won't get it through osmosis, but you can learn it through conversation and through practice, right? One main practice that you can follow from the DevOps perspective is to break your projects down into epics and stories, and then task and subtasks. So if you have a project that you're working on, and if you can explain it as an epic, right? Like, oh, we're gonna go to Disneyland, right? That's an epic. The stories are buying the tickets, getting the itinerary together, getting to the airport on time, getting your flight from the airport to your hotel, getting from the hotel to Disneyland, getting your tickets, getting all of the information you need to have fun, executing your itinerary, making it back safely. Those are the stories, right? And then those stories break down into subtasks. Those subtasks have a certain amount of acceptance criteria to be qualified as done or not. So when you create your subtask, you simply create a set of acceptance criteria that go along with those subtasks. And then you use a peer review process to qualify that acceptance. And then you also tie tests if needed. You don't want to bog it down with too much process, but you tie tests in to your tasks and your stories to make sure that those acceptance criteria pass those tests. If they do, then the story is accepted and it's moved from your development stage to your QA stage. Your QA stage is that's where your teacher will come in, or your instructor, your mentor. After your peer has reviewed it, your teacher, your instructor, your mentor will come in and take a look at the work. And then if it was good, then it would get promoted, and that's what you would be graded on at that point. And you can do all of that without gizmos and gadgets. You know, you can use notebooks, you can use you know, sticky notes, you can use a whiteboard, you can use a dry erase board, you know, whatever you want, really. Flashcards.
Well, James, thank you so much for that. I know we're just past 10:30. I know to be mindful of everyone's time as well. Katie, thank you for that excellent question as well. And everyone who provided feedback today. Does anyone else have a last minute comment or question before we unfortunately log off? Let's see. Oh, you're welcome, Daniel. He said, thank you. This was insightful. We appreciate you coming. And James, again, thank you so much for your time and your insight on the Smart Park Bridge and bringing this approach to education. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. And all of you logged on, thank you so much. We are so proud to have you part of the Mo Green Buildings initiative, and stay tuned for further coffee breaks and just ways to be involved with our organization. So take great care. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again very soon.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, David.
Thanks. Bye.